Hello everyone and welcome to a bit of a different video. This is kind of my thoughts on the Nintendo Switch Lite. While yes, it was announced the other day and it's taking me a little too long compared to like other YouTubers who finally talk about it and say something about it, I actually did want to say a few things about it. And none of it is complaints or anything. If anything, I like the idea that the Nintendo Switch Lite exists. Because one of the things that I've noticed from Nintendo systems is the fact that they tend to be more affordable compared to something like an Xbox or a PlayStation or whatever systems they have or whatever Pro or X versions that they have. They tend to be the more affordable systems, so younger kids could actually get into it. People on a budget who still want to play games could get into it as well, though your opinions on that may vary. That's not the point. The point is that we have some details about it. First off, it is a handheld-only Nintendo Switch that currently, as of looking on Nintendo's page, has no TV mode, has no tabletop mode. The Joy-Cons are permanently attached, and they're not really Joy-Cons, they're just like controllers that look like it. And they're permanently attached to the system. They've removed HD Rumble and the IR motion camera, so games that may support that no longer support that, so that's a thing. The thing is that what gets me, what's pretty funny is that you can't do the tabletop mode. However, I was hearing that it's like, oh, if you play something like 1-2 Switch, there you go. It's like, well, I don't think you'll be able to do that because I believe 1-2 Switch plays in tabletop mode, where you have two separate Joy-Cons playing, and it doesn't seem like you'd be able to get something like that. I guess if you played games multiplayer, you have to get your own separate system, because that's what I'm seeing from these images. There's nothing about like adding extra controllers to play on one system. This is not meant to be played like how the original Nintendo Switch adverts went, where it was just, you know, pull out the kickstand, put it right there, everyone's got their own controller playing, you know, 2 or 3 playing at one with one little Switch system. This is, you get one, if somebody else wants to play it, they have to get a separate system. So I did hear a thing about 1-2 Switch, that's not happening. The other thing is the fact that, I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like the D-pad is going to be an improvement for a lot of games, because I've played a couple games where the Joy-Con hasn't really been the most comfortable, but my other issue is with the analog stick on the Joy-Cons. I'm not the biggest fan of them, but for some reason the analog sticks on the Nintendo Switch Lite look really good. So I have a feeling that those will probably be more comfortable to use if it wasn't for the fact that the system is a lot smaller. So if you have larger hands such as myself, a system like this might be a bit uncomfortable to hold. So the other thing is the fact that it's going to come in 3 colors. It's going to come in a blue, in a yellow, and in a gray color. But on top of that, it's going to have its own themed system for Pokemon Sword and Shield when that arrives in November. This version of the Switch Lite, comes out in September on the 20th. So if you wanted a Switch, but you don't want to pay the $300 for a standard Nintendo Switch, this is probably the next best thing for you. It's kind of like the 2DS when that came out, when people kind of scoffed at it and said, well, this is stupid, this is for like little kids. Well, exactly, it's for younger kids, or for people who just do nothing but play games portably and don't really care too much for the Joy-Cons attaching and detaching, or the drift that they have with those controllers, because there have been Joy-Cons that have that drift, and mine is unfortunately one that has to deal with the drift on the left analog stick, which is why I don't prefer to use it for my streams whenever I play Super Mario Maker 2 or anything else on the Switch. The other thing is the fact that some people have been kind of smart or have been looking into this, and they noticed something on the Switch Lite, and that is the fact that that notch that comes with the Switch where you can put it in a docked mode, apparently that is also on this Switch Lite. The same dock is there, the same looking vents, like the layout is nearly identical. The only thing is that there's no split for the Joy-Cons, but it is a near identical design to the Nintendo Switch with that little indent included. So maybe there will be a Switch mini dock at some point. While it's saying that there is no TV support for it, what if that's just Nintendo saying there's no TV support for it now? There might be TV support for it later. We're going to find out when people start destroying their Nintendo Switch docks or buying third-party docks, and then try to see if they can fit the Switch Mini into it with some very not so subtle modifications made to it. They're going to like cut the sides and try not to hack off the USB and HDMI ports and stuff like that to try and see if you can plug in the the USB Type-C port to see if that'll happen. So I have a feeling that's going to happen around the launch of it, and it's going to be hilarious to see. But if it is possible, then that would hint even further, or that would confirm that there may be plans of a mini dock for the Switch Lite. So we'll see how this all comes. Personally, I think the system's kind of cool. If you're younger, or if you feel that you don't want the Joy-Cons, or you feel you might take out the Joy-Cons and lose them, or if portable gaming is just all you do, there you go. This is excellent. And it also follows Nintendo's kind of thing where they kind of make it accessible for people, which I completely agree with. I still do not like the positioning of the analog sticks being too close to the face button and D-pad, but that's just my preference, because, you know, I'm used to controllers that have like much more space in between, or that are like not directly below, so that's my thing. Aside from that, it's a solid system and looks really cool. I personally will not be getting it because I do want my own Nintendo Switch for I have a reason for that, which may or may not be brought up on stream at some point in the future. Anyways, with all of this Nintendo Switch Lite stuff mentioned, there have been rumors about, or talks about, a potential Nintendo Switch Pro. Pretty much a beefier Nintendo Switch. But before we get into that, I also want to mention that I saw this article on The Verge saying that there's actually going to be a change to the Tegra's GPU or APU, I don't remember exactly what it is, inside of the Nintendo Switch. So the very hardware inside of it is going to get a change for its memory and for its processor, potentially making it either more powerful, or it'll just be a more power efficient one. And on top of that, I have a feeling it's just going to go with power efficient while, you know, being able to play games at the same power. If not, if it does become a more powerful one, I will probably wait up on that one. And apparently the flash storage is swapped out so that way it can be faster, there can be less loading, less buffering, less frame rate drops. So I can't remember off the top of my head if these were rumors. This is an article I came across, so I will leave a link in the description for that. But let's get on to the topic of Nintendo Switch Pro. So far, this will just be a hypothetical. People were saying, oh, what if we have this Nintendo Switch, this super powerful handheld? It's going to be a beefier system, so there's no way you're going to make it portable. At least portable to where, you know, you've seen people be able to put a standard Nintendo Switch in their pockets. That actually is technically possible, because, you know, I have clothes that have pockets that are that massive to where you can do that. Anyways, the point is that it's going to be where that's not possible anymore, so you will need that carrying case or whatever, which I'm pretty sure people use. But it would be it'll output in 4K when you dock it to the TV, and that's where I immediately said no. And it's a shame, because I saw it through a post from C&D, Alex C&D. No disrespect, sir, but I'm going to disagree with that one, because unfortunately it seems like with Nintendo, they don't aim for the higher resolutions or the higher tiered resolutions. By that I mean like 4K or stuff like that, and I'm guessing the next generation is going to want to go 8K. Nintendo will probably try to go for like 1440 or 4K in the next generation systems that they produce. The point is, the reason I'm bringing this up is the fact that I feel like that the next the true Pro version, if we were to put a hypothetical Pro version of the Nintendo Switch, is slightly spaced out analog sticks, so they'll stay the same size, but they'll be a bit more spaced out, so that way it's more comfortable for those with larger hands such as myself, so that way we're not like holding it. It'll be a bit more spaced out, so that way there's a more comfortable holding position. If anything, add like some kind of Pro Joy-Cons, where they have like a little bit of a handle underneath, so that way if you are holding it in that mode, it's not super uncomfortable. Yeah, it's gonna make the it'll make those Joy-Con holders kind of obsolete, but it would be kind of cool to have. That's an optional. I don't really know if I want something like that. Anyways, as for the screen, keep it capacitive, which is pretty much, think of your smartphone. For those who don't know, there are two kinds of generally used touch screens, resistive and capacitive. Capacitive is the one that's used on your smartphones, on your Nintendo Switch, tablets, etc. Resistive is like Nintendo DS, 3DS, and the Wii U gamepad. So that's if you need a if you don't know what those kinds of touchscreens are. Anyways, what I would go for is a 1080p capacitive touchscreen on the gamepad itself, like on the tablet. But when you dock it to a TV, either a more powerful 1080p or, and hear me out, rather than jump to 4K, go straight for 1440. I don't mind the fact that 4K is an option for PC gaming, because I know with more powerful hardware, it can be done. With optimization, it can be done. My problem is when we go all the way to 4K and we see that games are suffering, whether it's frame rate drops, whether it's some kind of other oddities that are happening, or if it's not an organic or natural 4K, it's this upscaled 1080 or 1440 or whatever you're upscaling it from, and it just doesn't look like it was made for 4K. I have a problem with the fact that we are jumping to 4K just because consumer grade television or consumer TVs are going from, we went from having 1080p to 4K TVs. That is my problem with it. I feel that if you go to 1440, you could probably optimize the games. It'll developers can better optimize their games rather than going for the highest resolution. They can go for frame rate, because frame rate is something that the Nintendo Switch suffers with, because some of the games that are ported to it are ported as 30 FPS, or in some of the wrestling games that have come out for it, I almost completely said I was gonna say dog crap, but replace crap with a completely different word. Frame rate. Pretty much atrocious frame rates, performance, slowdown, all that stuff. Effects were gone, and it looked awful. So, if you are gonna go up to a higher resolution, 1440. That would probably be the highest acceptable one that we could put into this hypothetical Nintendo Switch. And I would also say, if you ever do want to use this thing as a tablet, add a second kickstand on that thing, because that little kickstand off to the left will probably not support it. It's probably going to break off more, so add a second kickstand to it, because I feel like that would hold up the system better. Because I've had it where I've used my Nintendo Switch and I'll put up the kickstand, but I'm always afraid that if something taps it on the left side, it's going to go over. It's going to fall over. And I'm not too confident with something like that. Anyways, that's pretty much just like all I can bring up for like size. Obviously you have a lot more to work with a larger system, so that's my hypothetical Nintendo Switch, like pretty much the basic stuff that I would want in it. 1440p when docked, 1080p when in handheld, and if that can't be possible, then maybe something more powerful. Like if it's just 1080 on both, then that's fine. You have 1080, but some games are at 30. And then if you dock at 1080 and everything's at 60, you have no problems for me. That depends on whether or not the games can be updated for something like that, and can detect whether or not you're using a Switch or a Switch Pro. So, you know, that's kind of a thing that has to go on Nintendo and also the developers. So that's just a lot of things. It's asking for a lot, but it's also one of those, it's the next logical step if they ever did make a Pro version. Anyways, I'm kind of going on this a little too much. I just wanted to throw my thoughts out there and say what I thought about the Nintendo Switch Lite, talk about the Nintendo Switch potential hardware changes for the standard Nintendo Switch, and what a hypothetical Nintendo Switch Pro could be, what I would want for it. So that's all 3 in 1. Let me know what you think about the topics that I've covered, and if you are a hater of the Nintendo Switch Lite, 2 things. 1, it's for people who don't really want to pay $300 for a Nintendo Switch for multiple people, because there are some games that may require something like that. And 2, you don't have to buy it. It is an optional consumer good. You ever thought about that one? I hope so. Because, well, let's just say that it's getting a little petty when you complain about a system that you really don't have to own. I mean, if you're fine with the Nintendo Switch, go for it. That's your system, go right ahead. If you want a Switch Lite, hey, more power to you. I like the idea of the system. I personally will not be getting it myself. I would like to get my own Nintendo Switch. For those who ask, wait, you've played Switch games before? It's a shared console between myself and a couple of others. So if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content like this, let me know in the comment section down below. I would really like to know. Would you like to see me cover new consoles or other consoles that are being announced or stuff like that, more gaming news? I would like to branch out into other things. Aside from doing Sonic Mania mods and other Sonic content. I don't hate it, but, you know, when you do the same things over and over again, it kind of gets to you anyways. If you liked the video, and you're not subscribed yet, join the Knux Club by subscribing to the channel. Click the bell icon to get notifications for new content. And at this time, I want to give a shout out to the members of Knux Club Plus. Their names are on screen right now. These are the members who are either YouTube channel members, Twitch subscribers, and patrons over on patreon.com/knucklechannel. You get an exclusive chat on my Discord server. You get a shout out at the end of each video. Basically, your name appears right on screen, and on top of that, you get updates that not everyone's going to get right away, or might not ever get. And there may be some other perks with that. I still need to come up with those. But if you also want to support the channel and get something cool to wear, you can get the Knux Club Hot Takes tee with the Teespring link down below. And with that said, I hope you have a wonderful and safe day. Follow me on social media. I forgot to mention that, but who cares, cuz I hope you all have a wonderful and safe day, and I'll catch you for the next video. If you're getting a Nintendo Switch Lite, awesome. If you don't like the Nintendo Switch Lite, don't make a fuss about it. It's an optional system. Anyways, take care.
Let's take a dive in aquatic mind. Once was a cold pit, but now it's a water ride. Makes you wanna sit back, enjoy the life, and do things you like doing, get to shine. It's your beast fighting with the foes all the time, but I